Okay, so we're going to cover today and tomorrow. It's going to be the kind of the last on our soul winning aspect and witnessing, and then we have a week off because next week is chapel on Thursday and Friday. So next week we're doing chapel. Then the week after that, I think we only have one CE. That's when we will start up the discipleship aspect. So we've been working on soul winning and witnessing, soul winning, witnessing, getting some of the groundwork and some of the books you're reading. You're trying to, especially the soul winner, a lot of that is a compilation of messages and lessons that Spurgeon taught in his, it was in meetings, it was also in his college that he had for preacher boys. So in that soul winner, some of it doesn't connect all the way because it is different messages, but it is very Spurgeon-esque. So do not wait to the last minute to read it, because in what we are expecting you to give back, we would like you no longer are writing a 5-page paper or something like that and just telling us all kinds of ridiculous things. Okay. I read the book. I've read it numerous times. I don't care what you say is in the book. I already know what's in the book. Okay. So we have a format. It's a book review. If you are unsure of that, which is, I know a couple of you, because basically hourly or on every half hour, you email my secretary with some question. Some type of like, so do we have class today? All right, and it's 10:59. Yes, okay. Yes, we do. All right, so, but if you're unsure of the book review, make sure that you get it down, okay? We're going to be looking then today and tomorrow at the important traits for the soul winner, and if we get enough time right at the end of tomorrow, we're going to try to give you some ideas on the use of tracts, why tracts are important. There are some people that get bent out of shape and not using tracts, or the tract has to basically be a Bible. And we're going to try to address a couple of things, but why tracts are a good way to at least leave some of the Word of God, maybe spread the seed, different things like that. So today and tomorrow, probably for a class and a half, we're going to be doing the important traits for the soul winner. I say a day and a half because we're going to try to get it all covered, and I have 15 traits. Some of them are pretty easy, but 15 traits. So let's try to look at that. We're going to look at Philippians chapter 2 and verse 13. And not all of these have a Bible verse next to them as far as the traits, but as a way of introduction, Philippians chapter 2. Philippians chapter 2. It says, "For it is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure." So the truth, the Lord gives salvation, it's by grace. We understand that in Ephesians 2, 8, and 9. But as far as Christian living, through the Bible, it says, "It is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure." It is, he wants to work in our heart and life that his will may be done. All right, that's the idea of this verse. It's God saying, I'm going to do work in you to will and to do of his good pleasure. So our desire as a Christian is to grow and let God work in our heart and life so that we can do his bidding. So what is one of the biddings? We've already studied that a lot. One of his biddings is to witness, to be a testimony, to be a light. And we don't have to go through all the verses because we've already done a bunch of those. The Bible is very clear that we are supposed to be a light. So I'm giving you that So if we're going to let God work in us and we're going to be conformed to the image, then I need to understand in the area of soul winning, what are some traits that will help me out to be a better soul winner? What are some things that I can do to let God work in me? What are some of the work that I can do? So that's one verse. Galatians 2:20. I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Right in the middle of that verse, I'm crucified with Christ. Nevertheless I live, yet not I. There's a phrase, but Christ liveth in me. Christ living in me. So the idea of letting Christ do some of that work, living in me, developing some characteristics and some traits that are very important. Another verse, Colossians 1, verse 29. Whereunto I also labor, striving according to his working, which worketh in me mightily. All right, the Lord's working in me, working through my life, working in my heart. So these verses, and you can even take 1 Corinthians 6, 19 and 20. So here are about 4 verses, all of them the Apostle Paul, which we would say the Apostle Paul deals a lot with the idea of being a testimony and a witness. And these are telling us that God wants to work in us to do his pleasure, to do his work, to do his will. What's one of those? It's to be a light, to be a witness, to be a testimony. And so we want God to work in us. We want Christ to work in our heart so that we're becoming a better testimony, a better light. So here are some reasonable things I think that we can work on. Number 1, this may sound odd, but be appreciative. Be appreciative. You need to develop this as a person. What is that? What's being appreciative? It's being a thankful person, a grateful person. The followers of Jesus are to be a thankful people. So in our life, when I am a grateful or I have an attitude of gratitude, okay, as we call it, if I have that attitude, then I understand I'm thankful. I'm so thankful for what God has done for me that then in obedience, it's not unreasonable for me to go out and share with people what Christ has done with me. I'm so grateful for what he's done that it just seems reasonable to go share it with other people. So I'm developing that attitude of appreciation, all right, gratitude. We should work on that. So that's number 1. Number 2, be kind. Be kind. Soul winners should manifest kindness. You will never be a good soul winner if you're a mean person. I'm sorry. And so how does that start? All right, well, in a family situation, it starts at home, doesn't it? In a family situation, if, for future reference, so with your children, you're trying to teach them to be kind. It's not fighting all the time. And then it's learning how to deal with others. And that's, growing up as children. They're going to fight a little bit. You might have some scuffles in the school. You might have scuffles in the youth group, scuffles with different things. But what are you trying to get across to them? The Bible instructs us to be kind. The Bible instructs us to work on these things. We're actually working on that right now through devotions. Okay, so one passage we read this morning is Romans 12. All right, so look at Romans 12. And let's see if the Bible, in the context, wants us to be kind. Look at Romans 12. All right, and we started in verse 4, but it talks in verse 4 through about 8, it talks about differing gifts. Then it starts in verse 9. Let love be without dissimulation. That idea of dissimulation is kind of a cantankerous spirit. Dissimulation can also mean antagonism. Always, there's some people, I've been, my boys are in high school, junior high and high school, and they're trying to, if you don't know this, you may not be aware, but freshmen, it shows one of the problems, I believe, with freshmen, and that is that you're not aware of reality. But in our school, we're not really basketball players. Okay, I don't know if you know that. If you haven't realized that, again, you may be like, really? All right, you need to kind of know of your surroundings. That's also a good trait of a soul winner. Know your surroundings, all right? But we're not really basketball players. So and it's funny because you'd say, well, you have a basketball tournament. I understand that, all right? But that's because we had a graduate that begged me for about 5 years because he would come here like, oh, you guys got such a nice gym. Why don't you do a basketball tournament? I'm like, well, no, why would we do a basketball tournament? I was like, you're only asking me because you lose all the time and you want to come and get a trophy. All right, that's all you want. And so you'd be like, hey, we won something. All right. I said, the only way we're going to do it is if afterwards we roll out the mats and we wrestle you. All right. So we ended up doing a basketball tournament and we lose every year. Okay, but it's really not a big deal. I love it because we have an unbelievable gym. I grew up playing basketball, and that gym is still unbelievable to me. All right, I love our gym. But we're not basketball players. So anyways, getting back to the story, my boys are trying to learn a little bit, so I've been playing some with high schoolers, which is, wow, torturous, okay? But when I was talking to my wife last night, I said, you know what, it's probably good for me because sometimes you start forgetting what a 13-year-old is like, although I have one in my house, and I've had numerous, and I'm like, they are so irritating. So I just want, it's good. It's a good fruit of the Spirit is temperance, self-control. I teach that all the time, and I just want to come and just throw the ball at them really hard. Be like, oh, that was a pass. All right. But being kind, because that's what I noticed is just there's just a meanness that's there, and a lot of sometimes with young people especially, there's a meanness. We have to learn to be kind. All right, so let love be without dissimulation. All right, some of that is that argumentative. All right, and I work on that really hard. I think it's a very bad problem in a school, in a person's life, if you always have to jump on the opposite opinion. There's something wrong with that's a cantankerous spirit. That is not a godly spirit. It's not saying that you can't disagree with somebody, but when it's always, it's continual, and you thrive on it. That's not a godly spirit. And you'd say, show me in the Bible. Let love be without dissimulation. Study it. You show me in the Bible where it is okay to be that way. I can give you at least a dozen plus scriptures to back up my opinion. So then it's not just my opinion, it's Bible. But some people say, well, you know what, the Bible says to earnestly contend for the faith. I don't know how that has to do with the type of pizza you order. But I'm saying the type of pizza, it's a knockdown, drag-out fight. Right? That's not earnestly contending for the faith. I'm sorry. Right? And that's what we have to work on. We've got to learn to be kind. Why? Because out in our society, we can't just be the jerks down the road. You don't want to go to that church. It's a bunch of jerks and idiots. Some of it is learning to be kind. Now, are we supposed to be firm? Yes, we are. That is one of the fruit of the Spirit. Goodness, the definition of goodness is kind but firm. So I'm not compromising, but I also have learned to restrain my tongue. I've also learned to work at it. So we're kind. Look at let love be without dissimulation. It says cleave to that which is good. Notice verse 10, be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love. That's that word Philadelphia, all right, in the Greek. So we're supposed to, in honor, preferring one another. Does that sound like an argumentative spirit? No. Not slothful in business, fervent in rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation. Look at verse 13, distributing to the necessity of saints, given to hospitality. Bless them which persecute you. Bless and curse not. Look at verse 17. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Look at verse 18. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourself. Look at verse 20. Therefore, if thine enemy hunger, feed him. 21. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. Is that a whole bunch of verses in context that says be kind? Yes. So we need to work at that, and it can be. I understand dorm situation, different irritating things that come up, and there can be a lot of irritating things that come up. But what we have to learn is how to get along. If we can't get along with one another, more than likely we're not going to be able to be kind to the world that we're trying to lead to Christ. In fact, one of the things that should be showing them, hey, there's a difference. What does the Bible say? The Bible's going to know ye are my disciples. How? If you have love one to another. So we need to be working at that. I understand there can be differences. I understand that something can be wrong. But then we talk about it. We should be able to do that. And that you're growing up in a society of hate. All right, you're experiencing it all the time. And part of it is, all right, in the political world, basically you got the Republicans, you got the Democrats. Both of them, in the nice way to say this, both of them, let's be kind, both are idiots. Okay? Now what do we mean by that? Neither one can sit down. Neither one, and basically the way to get at it is to yell insults back and forth. You can't sit down and say, you're seeing all this about the Lakeland shooting. There can be no logical sitting down. There's if you're looking something up, look up the governor of Kentucky. They will not even let him finish statements. Right? He grew up in Kentucky. Okay, you are in Kentucky. So guess what he says? 30 years ago, guess what the boys did in high school? You know what he did growing up? It was allowed. You're in Kentucky again. They all brought their guns to school. And guess what they didn't have? School shootings. So he says, let's just sit down. So 30 years ago we had guns in school. Now we have none, and there's school shootings. Can we sit down? He said, can we just sit down? Is there a breakdown of the family? He's a decent Christian. He's an outspoken Christian. Right? They had a school shooting in Kentucky, and he got lambasted because he called on the churches in the community to have prayer meetings, and he got hammered by the and he's like, you don't know my people. You don't know. I mean, everybody was really excited, and the people were talking about how it really helped them. And guess what? Well, we don't need prayer. No, actually, they needed it, and it helped them. And that's what you're living in this hate-filled world. Why is it that way? Part of it is you reap what you sow. So what have we been sowing? We've been sowing non-biblical principles for decades now. So what should we do? Go to the Bible and start sowing back into our society biblical seeds. And what's one of them? Hey, I'm praying for you. Right? It amazes me, even folks that I deal with. And I'll tell them that. We've had people, we've had police officers a couple years ago. We kind of had a little campaign trying to help police officers just to encourage them. We'd have police officers at gas stations almost crying because we just said we cared. Showing some of that does help. All right, I've done that a couple of times. We had a bad accident. Okay, a tragedy. I guess it's, in vocabulary today you call them accidents, but we had a horrible tragedy in the summer. All right, we worked with the health department. The health department was so good to work with. So you know what you do? You're kind. And I talked to a couple of guys, and I said, so how do they find out? What helps them? So I wrote the commissioners, because I found out that's the health department's boss. So I wrote the commissioner. I did the same thing to the bank. All right, the banker, she's a good friend of mine. She's helped us tons. And through a lot of things she's helped, I did the same thing. I wrote her bosses. All right, a little creepy. I thought she was going to hug me. I don't do the hug thing. All right, I just like back off. All right, but she, in fact, the other day I was just walking into the bank. She just sat there and just talked and said, oh, I just can't believe you do that. I'm like, you've been really helpful to us. So think about it. All I did was say thank you. So what does that tell you about our society? Nobody says thanks. All right, you know the chapel? That chapel. All of the wood in that chapel was given to us. Free. Okay, and then we're actually working on another project with the guy. He owns a really big company, wood company in America. And he's a Christian. Got to know him. So after he sent that, I wrote a nice letter. I bought this picture. I sent some gift cards to his office and said, hey, you guys go out to eat. I mean, you gave me a whole chapel free. He called me up. He's done tons of places. Right? He's actually on a board of a Bible college. So I know, and he showed me projects. All right, he didn't connect that I remembered that when he told me this. He goes, I can't believe you do that. I said, you gave me a chapel. He goes, yeah, but nobody's ever said thank you like that. Just, thank you. Wait, hey, you just gave me, I mean, that is, I know what I don't know exactly. All right, but downtown, you guys were downtown, Chicago, at the lights, Christmas lights. How many went in the Apple store? Anybody go in the Apple store? All right, did you look up? You see that ceiling, all that? He did that. Yeah, he did all of that. That's why I'm trying to do another project, because he did that. He also did the world headquarters for Apple. It was 22 miles of wood. So I know he's got some cha-ching right now. You know what I mean? All right. Okay. All right. He got a little cabbage. All right. But, so I know he's a good Christian, and he says, you know, he says, I don't charge them just a little bit. I charge him a lot. He's very specialized. He knows what he's doing. But I don't just say, well, it's about time. Just say thank you. Be kind. What you're going to find is if you're kind to people, they'll listen to you some. And it may take a little bit of time in soul winning. It may take a little bit of time in working with somebody. But be kind. Soul winners should manifest kindness. All right, number three. All right, so we got to get through about 8 more or 7 more. All right, we'll get to number 10. Be complimentary. All right, it can be overdone. I understand that. But that also goes along with what I just said. Be complimentary. I have, in fact, there's a number of folks in town that I try to work with, and then I'm going to try to get them to come out to church. It's hard to get them to come out to church if you've been a jerk to them. If you had them do a project, and maybe they messed up a little bit. It's all right. Go in and talk to them. Figure it out. It doesn't mean you're going to get taken to the cleaners, but you just say, no, I'm not going to accept that. I'm not going to sit there and throw stuff at them. But if you're in there and you're ranting and raving, throwing stuff at them, what do you think is going to happen? Then the next time you come in and like, hey, we're having a big day. Whoosh. All right, it's in the garbage. Why? Because you were a jerk to them. Then all of a sudden you're going to go back and say, hey, wouldn't you like what I have? No. Right? If that's the way I'm going to act. And I know there's a guy in town, every once in a while I have him do my cars. And so we've developed a friendship. You would never think we could sit down and talk. But he calls me the Reverend or something like that. So I'll come walking in, and it's just a hole-in-the-wall place, and we'll sit there and talk. And we've developed a relationship over the last, 8 to 10 years. So I'll come in, and normally it's going to be 45 minutes. And man, there is every piercing you can think and every tattoo you can think of. He's got, but you know what he talks about? His family. He's got 5 kids, 6 kids. He loves camping with them. He is a really good dad. So we talk about some of the things and some of the things that society is doing. And I'm trying to steer him towards God. And, hey, maybe sometime I'll get him out. Why? Because it's being courteous. Or I actually compliment him about being a good dad. I don't really compliment him about the tattoo. We're like, wow, oh, what is that? Oh, it's getting a little flappy. All right. All right. Well, we're complimentary. All right, number 4, be interested in others. What is probably the greatest trait that you can work on to learn to be interested in others? It is one of the hardest things. What is that? Listening. Close that thing. That trap runs nonstop. And I know that everybody wants to hear what you have to say. They're so wowed by your speech. But be interested in others. If you learn to listen, and there's traits. I mean, there's things that you can go on. If you're going to be a good soul winner, and also part of that is being educated a little bit. So learn about listening. What's some tips for listening? What are some, do you know that there's even body language that indicates that I'm done with you? All right, I know that. You know why? Because I use some of it. All right, it helps you. And I'm not saying that, I'm talking even as a staff. Sometimes if I have appointments and it's clicking along, it's not saying that I'm not listening, but if I stay standing in my office, I'm like, all right, yeah, let's go ahead and let's run through it. Guess what it tells them automatically? It tells them that I'm busy. I don't have time even to sit down. Okay, so all of those things, learn some of those things. It helps you. Learn that if there's eye contact, there's the way you sit, the way you are looking at things. If you're not doing eye contact, there's some people that they're talking to you, and while they're talking, well, and it's a difference between men and women. Learn that too. I mean, there's nothing wrong. It's not all psychology. I'm not talking about psychology. This is just human characteristics. You take 2 men that are talking. You know how men usually talk? You know how men usually talk? We usually talk like this. Hey, so what's up? Normally, hey, so what's going on? You say, are you talking to him? Yeah. And he's talking to me. I'm scanning, just looking out. So what's up? Yeah, and you say, ooh. That's sometimes how men talk. You say, they're not engaged. Yeah, they are. I mean, they're fully engaged in the conversation and looking out. You say, how's that possible? Because men do that. All right, so guess what? As a lady sometimes, you'd say, you know what? He's not listening to me. Oh, he's listening to you. Kind of. All right, anyway. But men do that. All right, a lot of times, women, they are more personal in their conversation. But men sometimes are like that. But understand some of those things. Learn a little bit about it. It helps you. It helps you to learn what it means to be interested in others, to show some different things. Learning how to respond a little bit. Are there even phrases that are helpful? Yes, there are. And sometimes those phrases change. But helping them to understand that you would like them to be a part. You know, even how you say things sometimes can indicate to somebody that you'd like them to come and visit. I mean, what if I'm sitting there with Jericho, and yeah, well, if you get some time, I mean, we'd love, well, we kind of, I mean, if you want, we got a place, and, it's all right if you'd want to come over sometime. I mean, does that really sound like I want him to come? I'd be like, you know what? You would love our place. You belong at our place. I'm telling you, our place is right for you. You get a whole different impression. Instead of like, maybe some, you can send all of that by just talking. Be interested. Be interested in what other people are saying, and be interested in learning how to listen. It doesn't mean that you have to take everything. But that's even that man. I don't know. I don't understand it all, but the guy that gave us the wood. The reason is because I paid attention to him. I wrote him. I talked to him. We hadn't seen each other. We hadn't talked in 10 years. But he had told me, and we had just kind of corresponded a little bit about the chapel. I saw him 10 years before we built the chapel. And he had said, if you ever need anything, let me know. And we had corresponded. And so then I called him up. He goes, oh, yeah, I'll do that. So 10 years later, right, some is that somehow he felt that I was interested in him. And we built a relationship. Relationships are very important. You will never accomplish anything without learning how to build relationships. It'll be you, right? And you alone. And you're like, why didn't anybody like me? Jerks. Well, okay. Well, you got point number one. Okay. But if everybody else is not liking you, it may not be the whole world. It may be you. Then learn how to talk to people, learn how to relate to people. Why? Because the message that we're bringing can change their life. It's very important, and it's not really popular. So I don't want to be the deterrent. Right? The message sometime itself is going to turn them away. How do I know that? Because that's the Bible. Broad is the way that leads to destruction. Okay? And it's a narrow path. That helps me in understanding that. So let's go through, number 5. All right, so we got number 1, be appreciative. Number 2, be kind. Number 3, be complimentary. Number 4, be genuinely interested in others. Number 5, be ethical. Be ethical. There's a time and place for personal witnessing. So what would one place not be? Oh, come on now. What? The toll booth. Yeah. It's not really a good spot. Good idea. But what could you do? That's a place to give a track. Okay? What else? Come on now. What? When you get pulled over. That's when you have the Bible open. Like, sorry, sir, I'm just finishing up. Just some prayer time. Okay? What? You're an employee. All right? Work. So you're at the cash register. All right? Finishing up. You're like, ma'am. All right? And then there's a line behind. You are not a good representation. One, that's not ethical. Are you being paid by them to be a soul winner? No. You're being paid to work. So be the best worker you can. If they will allow you at break time, if they'll allow you at lunchtime to maybe open your Bible. And some of it is developing some relationship. It's developing a relationship. You can't just walk in and all of a sudden you're witnessing to every coworker. They don't even know you. Develop a little bit of relationship. Show that you're a Christian. That's what you need to do. So you need to be ethical. When the soul winner is on the job at work, witness at another time, not on work time. You don't witness on company time. And so we need to, and then be be interested in people, but also that's why we have tracks and different things like that. You're careful of somebody else's time. Like I said, at the toll booth. And then you're just, pausing. You're like, hey, you want me to pull up and hop back? Like, they're at the toll booth. Okay? Or even that idea. Maybe you're a customer and you're checking out. And then you want to pause and you're wanting to give them the plan of salvation. I mean, they're at work. All right? And so their boss is going to be irritated if you're taking their time away. So be ethical about it. Yes, you can give them a track. Yes, you can say, hey, if you're ever needing anything, call me. Here, my number's on there. Here's an email, or our church is here. Love to have you come out. All right, those are all fine. But make sure that you're using your noggin on those type of things. So be ethical. Number 6, be friendly. All right, that's why I said some of these are very similar. Be friendly. All right, so we'll skip that one because we kind of have dealt with that already. So let's go to number 7. Be enthusiastic. And what do we mean by enthusiastic? We're saved people. All right, we shouldn't be mopey. What is some of the fruit of the Spirit? There's joys, or joy. Remember in Romans 12, it says rejoice. In the Old Testament, you see that. In the New Testament, in Paul, the Pauline epistles, rejoice again, I say rejoice. All right, rejoice, have some joy in you. There should be some enthusiasm. And I understand that there can be times that we're not just bouncing off the walls, but there should be an evidence of a joy. And joy is not circumstantial. If in your life it's circumstantial, if you're saying, well, you don't know, then you don't know God. That's what I can tell you. Because God's Spirit isn't related to circumstances. Otherwise, we would not have the Pauline epistles. Because he's sitting in jail, and one of the books we love, in fact, we call it the Epistle of Joy, is the book of Philippians. And he wrote it in jail. Right? Over and over, you see that through the Bible. Joy is not tied to circumstances. Joy is tied to a person, and that is, specifically for us, the Holy Spirit. Evidence of the Holy Spirit is that there is a joy. And that reflects as we are out soul winning, as we're out dealing with folks. There's just there's a happiness that's there. And it's not a fake happiness. It's just a joy that's in our life. And people notice that. People notice when, I understand you're going through a hard time, and yet there's still a joy. There's evidence of that. And that helps in developing a relationship with somebody. It helps being a testimony. Sometimes they'll even ask you. All right, I've told you this. All right, our lawyer opens himself up all the time. But one question he had, he goes, why are you guys so happy? And he's dealt with us with a lot of hard things. He goes, you know what? Why are you so happy? I said, you really want to know? He's like, yeah. So guess what? For about 45 minutes, we went through how Christ changes your life. All right? Now, is he saved right now? No. But we're going to take the opportunity to share Christ. That's what it can do. It's just seed. So you're being friendly, you're being enthusiastic. Number 8, we're natural. Be natural. In Ephesians 5, it says, be therefore followers of God as dear children. 1 Peter 2:21, for even hereunto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that ye should follow his steps. So what do we mean by be natural? I am not. This is a very easy one for you to see visually. I am not Jericho. It's very easy, right? Very easy. There's a lot of things that relate there that you'd be like, no, I never really confused you with him, okay? But I'm supposed to imitate Christ, so I understand that, you know, we all like somebody, and it is the nature of man to follow man, okay? That's why, you know, what do they have all in the world? Right? And it's not just in America, it's all over the world. They idolize singers, they idolize actors, and they make posters, and they have all kinds of things. Why? Because it is in the nature of man to idolize somebody, follow somebody. But who am I supposed to follow? I'm following Christ. I understand that somebody I'm going with somebody, and man, they have some techniques or they have some things, and I can work at that. But remember, let God develop your personality, and it's your personality. Now, I'm not going against all the stuff about being friendly and being kind and being enthusiastic. Yes, we're going to have all those things, but you're not somebody else. God made you as an individual, and He will also help you. He will lead you to people that you can have a relationship with. So I don't have to be somebody else, and you don't have to be anybody else. So you're natural. You don't have to all of a sudden, and I've noticed that with especially young people. They come in and, you know, you sit with them, you talk with them, you're like, wow, that's a nice person. Then all of a sudden, they're in another situation. You're like, what happened? Is there like a booth that they, like, I am soul winning man? Like, what? Even the voice. You're like, what happened to your voice? Like, you had a real high squeaky voice. No, I am in the Word. Would you like? You're like, that's not your voice. There's no way. How are you doing that? Do you have like a little button there? You modifying your voice? You can't do that. Okay, so be natural. All right, what we're trying to do is we're working on different things, but I'm not going to change my voice. Yeah, if there's something wrong with my posture, yeah, you know, if I'm like walking up to like, you know what, that's that. You know, yeah, work on your posture. So there are things physically, yes, that we should work on, and we shouldn't. It's not just imitating. There's physical things that we can do, but remember that God will use you. You don't have to be anybody else. You don't have to be another person. And everybody does have different gifts. We don't have time. I think next year in our church we're going to be doing a study on that. Because there are different gifts. There's differing gifts. That's that Romans 12 even passage. 1 Corinthians talks about that. I think it's a 12 that it talks about it a bunch. But there are differing gifts. And I'm not saying there's a gift of gab, but some people are a little more friendly. They're a little more enthusiastic than others. And they have that. There are some people that are, all right, they're more of like a people type person. And there's other people that are not necessarily a people person. They still can do that, but they're more Mr. Organization. All right, they just, they toe the line. And you can tell there's just a difference in them. All right? And some of that can even be their occupation. Like somebody that's older, I will meet them. Sometimes I can tell some of their occupations. All right? Normally, even off duty, I can tell a police officer. Some of it's their training. They're aloof. Right? They scan. There's just something about them and the way they carry themselves. I'm like, man, that guy's a police officer. He's got to be. Right? There's some of that is training. Right? And their gifts in that area kind of make them for that. That's why not everybody's a police officer. Right? That would be really awkward. Okay? In our society, we're like, well, what are you, police officer? What are you, police officer? I'm like, how are we all police officers here? All right, there's different occupations. There's different personalities. So what I'm doing is I'm praying and saying, I'm going to put the things in that biblically need to be changed. Let God conform me into His image. But I don't have to change my personality. have to change your personality to become somebody else. No, God made you the way you are, and He can use you to reach people, so be natural. Number 9, this one we already kind of dealt with. Be joyful. Philippians 4:4, rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice. God's people are to be happy. Psalm 145:15, happy is that people whose God is the Lord. God, the Lord, can make the saved rejoice. All right, here, this one is a much more practical. So let me go through again. We said be appreciative, be kind, be complimentary, be genuinely interested in others. That means be a listener. Be ethical, be friendly, be enthusiastic, be natural, be joyful. The last one we'll talk about today, be well-groomed. And we'll pick up with that one because that be well-groomed we could park at for hours. But we should be well-groomed. We should present, we are ambassadors for Christ. That's 2 Corinthians 5. So I'm not saying that I'm always in a suit and tie, but it is different for me. All right, and for some of you, it would be good for you to get in the habit of, especially guys, you're going to be a pastor, you're going to be in full-time ministry. As you're younger, it is much more important that you, your appearance is important. Dress like a pastor. Right, so even in town, it is rare. Like the bank, sometimes I'll pull up. You want your town to know you. That's one thing. And I have worked and worked and worked at that. I want my town to know me. So you know what the bank calls me? It's almost, they call me Pastor Dameron. I walk in like, hey, Pastor. I'm like, All right. And so like I'll pull through the drive like, oh, you and your dad's today. And I'm like, you know what? That's a little creepy. All right. Get back in your teller booth there. All right. Out of my car. Okay. But guess what? They notice. They noticed. So you need to be careful. The grooming, the making sure that you look proper. Why? You're a representative of Christ. You could say, well, that's not fair, huh? You can say fair or not fair. You're a representation of Christ, and you're presenting them some way. You're either presenting them bad or good. So if you're a slob, all right, and you're not, even at a restaurant, all right, I try to be careful at a restaurant. All right, if I'm done and it's a mess, oh no, we're cleaning the table. All right, guess what? I'm going to leave a track, and I mean, there's like garbage everywhere. They're like, what in the world? All right, come to Fairhaven. All right, our church looks the same. Okay, you just eat and toss it. That's only the bus route. All right. So be well-groomed, and we want to be thinking about these things. And tomorrow we will finish up. Remember, coffee day at 10:45 in the morning.